Hi, my name's Daniel Bloyce. I'm the Deputy Head of Sport and Exercise Science Department at the University of Chester, and welcome to my kitchen session, which, as you can see, genuinely is in my kitchen. Thankfully, this is the few moments I've had away from my children for the past 7 weeks. My wife's just taken them on a drive, so they don't disturb us here. So hopefully things will go swimmingly. There's an opportunity to ask questions. If you have any, please do type them on the live chat, and I'll try and answer all the questions at the end rather than give any answers as we go through, just in the hope that I can stick to the time. Got about 15 minutes to talk to you. If you've got any questions that you think about after the session, then do please email me. My email address will be put on the live chat in a few moments. Also, in addition, please do follow the department on our various different social media pages. We're on YouTube. Actually, we have our own YouTube channel where you can see various colleagues and myself deliver 1 minute and 5 minute taster lectures, which will give you an idea of the kind of things we do on the program as well. Okay, so in the next 15 minutes, what I want to talk to you about is why I think it's a good idea to study at the University of Chester and do sport and exercise science at the University of Chester. There are 4 key points that I want to get across to you in relation to this, and they are related to the broad-based applied content of the curriculum we offer, the staff body, the opportunities we give to students both on the curriculum and extracurricular, and finally our reputation on things like National League tables and with our very own students on the National Student Survey, and related to those things, the graduate prospects for our students. So first of all then, to the broad-based programme. This, I think, has great appeal to students. Those of you who are looking to do sport and exercise science degrees, whether this year, next year, or a few years down the line, need to know that there are differences between sport and exercise science degrees, even if their title are the same. So some sport and exercise science degrees focus exclusively on the physical sciences, so biology and biomechanics, so physiology and biomechanics, whereas others, and this is ours at the University of Chester, offer a broad approach so that we cover a number of different areas. We offer a matrix of provision that facilitates specialism come the 2nd and 3rd year, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So in the 1st year, all students will be introduced to the 5 key subdisciplines of sport and exercise science, which are biomechanics, which in essence is the physics of exercise and sport; physiology, which is the biology, how the body works in relation to exercise and sport; psychology, how the mind works in relation to exercise and sport; pedagogy and coaching, which is the art, as it were, the skill of teaching people how to play sport and be physically active, and coaching. And finally, not an area that I leave to last normally, because the actual area I teach and have specialism is the sociology of sport. Why do we see the multidisciplinary route as most advantageous when some of our competitors just focus on the physical sciences or the social sciences? Well, that's easy to answer. It keeps the doors open for lots of different career outlets. We have many students who come to us thinking they want to get into physiology and end up really enjoying biomechanics, or end up wanting to teach PE, or end up doing my subject, sociology, and end up working in sports promotion or lecturing, doing my kind of job 6-7 years down the line, for example. Not only does it keep your options open, but having this broad-based approach, we also think just makes you a better physiologist. So having a 1st year grounding, for example, in sociology and biomechanics, even if come the 3rd year you want to focus exclusively on physiology modules, which is perfectly possible within our degree structure, then studying sociology and biomechanics in the 1st year, we argue, make you a better physiologist. They make you more aware of the broad issues that face sports people and people wanting to be more physically active. The second reason I would encourage you to come to the University of Chester to do sport and exercise science, and arguably this is the most important reason, and that's the staff base. We are teachers first and foremost, but we're teachers with academic research pedigree. It's rare that you'll find in university departments up and down the country, not just in sport, but in other departments as well, that the top researchers are heavily involved in the teaching on the undergraduate program. And I'm just going to give you 2 really good examples of that. Professor Ken Green, who is the head of department, is an international renowned expert in physical education and youth sport, and he teaches on our undergraduate program. Indeed, he has a third-year module that he teaches exclusively on called Sociology of Physical Education and Youth Sport. And the second example is Professor Craig Twist, who's internationally known for his research on muscle damage in sports performers. Unlike a lot of other places where you'll be sold a big name who you'll never ever see or never be taught by, Craig, like Ken, teaches on our undergraduate program. And we're all teachers first and foremost. It's our bread and butter. But because we're researchers as well, what we teach you is based on credible research and knowledge. So the staff cannot be underestimated, not only in terms of their approach and their knowledge, but also their interactions with students. I think if you asked any of our current undergraduate students and undergraduate students going back the last 20 or so years that I've been teaching at the university, they will all tell you to a person how personable and approachable we are, and how at the University of Chester as a student, you would not just be a number, you would be a name and a face and somebody that we would get to know and that we would help and be supportive of. Not only that, we also have a really excellent support network centrally within the University of Chester. Thanks for your question, Claire. I will deal with any questions that are asked right at the end of the talk, just in case there are a few more as well. So the staffing base is both passionate, knowledgeable, but also student-centered. And you really won't find such a strong combination at many other places, I don't think. The third reason I would suggest that it's a good reason to come to study sport and exercise science at the University of Chester is the opportunities we offer to students throughout the program, both as part of the curriculum, but also extracurricular. So I'll give you examples in relation to the curriculum. On our pedagogy modules, our coaching and pedagogy modules, for example, at every single stage in level 4, level 5, level 6, or year 1, year 2, and year 3, students in the normal environment, maybe not in COVID-19 situation, but perhaps we might talk about that in the questions later. Students on our program will get to teach hands-on, as it were, primary school pupils who we bring into the school, bring into the university from their schools. And this is really valuable experience. Even if the student teaching them doesn't have any ambitions to become a teacher necessarily, just being able to be outward facing, being able to have to deal with, as it were, an external client prepares you really well for the world of work, whether that's working with children, whether it's working with adults, whether it's working with elite sports people, as many of our students go on to do. Other modules, for example, that have built-in applied aspects to them, at the end of our second year, all students will have a placement opportunity. Our current students are on placement at the moment. Normally, that would be often out there in the real world. Given the current lockdown situation that has been in place, most of them are doing some online alternative. For example, my own students who are doing a project with me have put together a questionnaire about the impact of social media on professional sports people. And the superb links we have within professional sport means that we hope we're going to get several dozens of responses to that questionnaire for them to analyze for their placement. Other kind of placements normally would mean our students working in the professional sports setting, working within health promotion setting, working within schools, working within active partnerships that relate to promoting sport and promoting physical activity, for example. In addition to that, in the third year, we have an applied module in performance analysis, where our students get to work for 6 to 8 weeks, often in professional sports settings. And if those sports, the professional sports we have links with, so cricket, rugby union, rugby league, cycling, and football, if those sports aren't the sports that the student is interested in, they can access and do access either local clubs to be able to do performance analysis placement with, or of course the student university teams and clubs. On top of the curricular aspects of applied setting, we also have the opportunities for students to do extracurricular activities, whether that be working in schools, and often the students will do that off their own back, of course. But we have, and if you do follow us on our various different social media outlets, which we put up on the chat there, you will see we'll often advertise placements to our students working within health promotion settings, working with professional sports. We have excellent links, for example, with numerous rugby league clubs, partly because of Craig Twist's expertise in the area of muscle damage and rugby league, for example, as I mentioned before. We have excellent links with the English Institute of Sport, the EIS. Indeed, one of my colleagues, Professor Paul Worsfold, is also head of biomechanics at the EIS. So we have excellent links there. Recently, British Cycling offered numerous placements to our students to carry out various different physiological tests in terms of talent identification, to find the next Bradley Wiggins or the next Chris Froome, for example. So we have excellent opportunities that are applied. And that's the other thing I should say about the nature of the degree. It's very, very hands-on. Of course, there's a lot of learning by listening. And we feel that we do a very good job of that. I mentioned that already in relation to the staff. But there's a lot of learning by doing. You will be involved in the labs. You'll get your hands dirty in the labs. And we see practical-based work as being a key aspect of what we do here at the University of Chester. Even in my own subject of sociology, we do a lot of small group work where we make it much more applied, much more practically oriented. The fourth and final area I wanted to talk about were the reputation we have as a department. And even though we're certainly not the biggest and we're certainly not the richest player in the game, we more than hold our own with the big teams, so to speak, in terms of where we sit in the typical league tables. We're normally in about the top third, although that is slightly distorted by some of the figures that, if I'm being brutally honest, aren't that relevant to you as undergraduate students. If you were to look at the Times or the Guardian league tables, for example, you will see we're about a third, within the top third, as I've mentioned already, of all universities offering sports degrees. But where we're in the top 10 is in all the student-related stuff, i.e. the teaching expertise, the impressions our students have of us. And that comes from the National Student Survey, which is an annual survey of all graduating students from all programs up and down the country. And we have been consistently in the top 5 for overall satisfaction in relation to that National Student Survey. All of these data can be found online. And one of the other things I forgot to mention actually at the outset is, if you do want a copy of the slides that I would normally use to deliver, for example, at an open day, then do email me at the email address available there on the chat, and I'll happily send you a copy of the slides and we can engage in some chat after this event as well. Okay, on top of the National Student Survey and the league tables, another area where we do exceptionally well, in fact, again, as far as I can work out from all the other universities who publish their data, again, we're in about the top 5 or 10 for graduate prospects. And what do I mean by graduate prospects? It's key to learn here. This isn't just that they're in employment, because that could be any employment. But where we're in the top 5 for is in the number of students of our graduates who, after 6 months of studying at the university, are now in graduate jobs, i.e. the government consider them to be professional or managerial jobs. That is 70% of our students who graduated, who go on to get jobs, are in those kind of jobs. And that's absolutely critical, really, because what we're able to say there is, in the 3 years that the students study at Chester, they are graduate ready. The kind of education they get from us, the kind of support they get from us, make it very possible for them to get the kind of jobs they do. And many of our students do in professional sport. We have lots of students working in the professional sports setting. We have lots of students who work for the English Institute of Sport, would have been going to Tokyo 2020. Now, fingers crossed, will be going to Tokyo 2021, not as athletes, but as sports science support to the athletes. We have a lot of students who go into health promotion. We've had a number of students who've gone into physiotherapy, although that does, of course, require an additional qualification upon completing the sport and exercise science degree. Still, a number of our students go into PE teaching, even though we also have our own bespoke physical education degree as well. And so the graduate opportunities available to our students, I think, are up there and second to none. And I say that, and this is one of the things I'm most proud of, because what we tend to take in aren't necessarily the A-star students at A-level, although we do get a fair few of them. We're not in a position like one or two of our supposedly more illustrious competitors to insist on those grades because we're a relatively small university. But what we do is we turn, if you'll pardon my kind of cheesy phrase, we'll turn those rough diamonds into diamonds. And they come here not necessarily with the best grades in comparison to lots of other universities, but they leave on a par with graduates from those other universities and getting the kind of jobs at that level. There's two other reasons, if you may indulge me. I did say four, but there's two other reasons. For me, the Chester factor. I'm born and bred from North London, and I still love visiting my mum and my brother and nephews in North London, but I wouldn't move back there for the world. I love living in Chester, and a lot of our students find that. A lot of them obviously are stay-at-home students anyway, so they know what the area is like, but a lot come to Chester, and it's a fantastic city to live and work. The second reason, additional reason, is the facilities on campus. I've mentioned already, we're not the biggest university, but the facilities we have on campus available within a 5-minute walk from everywhere are really fantastic, and that's both for general sports, but also for sports science as well. So thank you very much for listening. I've noticed there have been a couple of questions, so I'll deal with those now. If you have any other questions, please do ask me on the chat. I've got another 14 minutes or so to be live here. If you aren't brave enough to ask a question on the live chat, do feel free to email me a question. I'll deal with it that way. I would really strongly encourage you also to watch the next live chat that follows me at 12:30, and that's Craig Twist, who I've mentioned already, one of my colleagues, who's talking about whether you should warm up before exercise. Having trained with him consistently for the last 10 or 15 years and knowing he never does, I sincerely hope his answer and his conclusion will be that no, you don't have to warm up before exercise, but please do go and see that to find the science behind why you should or you shouldn't. Okay, so to the questions. Thank you, Claire. How big are the classes normally? Well, we have an intake, and it does fluctuate from year to year. And the last couple of years, we've had it's been a low birth cohort. So there's been fewer numbers of people coming to university in that time from this country. So we've seen our numbers decline a little bit in the last couple of years, but they're always anywhere between 50 to 80 or 90. And we never ever teach with 90 in a class. We always split our lectures so that if we do have a lead lecture, it's always split into at least two groups. So you'll never be in a class size of above 45, 50. And of course, if you're comparing that with your A-level class at the moment, that's massive. But as far as a lecture is concerned, that's actually relatively small. And we also do most of our work in small group work anyway. So size of 10 to 15 in labs or seminars. So thanks for that question, Claire. I'm afraid I don't know how to pronounce your name, Chi Qing Li. So I hope I haven't done a terrible disservice to your name there. But as students need to keep social distancing in the circumstances of COVID-19, how can they interact in this course? That is an absolutely excellent question that, of course, I don't have all the answers to at the moment. The university is obviously waiting, and it's a very moving, rapidly moving picture. We'll see what happens in the next few weeks, whether we go on lockdown again. It is anybody's guess. I think even the scientists supporting the government don't know the answers yet. But as a university, we are being proactive in this regard. I have to commend my own learning information support team and learning teaching unit, who really, really helped us just before the spring vacation of going online. So within a few days of my last live lecture in face-to-face in person, I was delivering my first online lecture, and the transition has been really good. But you're absolutely right, the kind of course we do, it just wouldn't be the same if it was all online. We're obviously hoping we'll be back to face-to-face teaching sooner rather than later. As a university, we're preparing for the potential of having mixed face-to-face and online teaching in the autumn, and maybe even in the spring term of 2021. And I think we'll be well equipped for that. We're certainly, as a department, we're also talking in the hope that this all kind of goes away in a year or so's time, of course, that we'll backload the curriculum. So we'll do a lot of the theory in the first 3 or 4 months of the curriculum, saving the practical, where we'll need that kind of social interaction towards the back end of the academic year. And that's the way I think we'll get around it. And our students, I must say, have been really, really impressive in the way in which they've dealt with us moving online. We've been commended for the way in which we have. So thanks very much for that question. But ultimately, the answer will have to be watch this space as well. But we've certainly got lots of contingencies in place. Okay, Molly Salter has asked, during this time, I should have been doing a lot more volunteering. Do you think that would affect personal statements? Great question, Molly. I think you and everybody else are in exactly the same position. I really wouldn't worry about it if you don't feel you've done enough up until this point. It's in some respects, in this current climate, it's going to be the thought that counts. And I think that's something you should emphasize on your personal statement. Any volunteering you've done up until now, I would flag up. But if I'm going to advise you on your personal statements, as far as I'm concerned, for an application to the University of Chester, I would really emphasize the passion that you have for not just playing sport, because it's important to emphasize that when you do a sport and exercise science degree, it's not necessarily how good you are on the pitch or on the court or on the track or in the pool. It's how good you are at understanding the various different subdisciplines that I mentioned before that will underpin those. So if you could talk about your passion for learning more about sport on your personal statement, and the fact that you would have done more volunteering had the situation allowed, I'd be more than happy with that, Molly, if I'm being honest. I hope that answers your question. Okay, Ryan, thank you for your question. I'm thinking of doing a Master's in Sports Performance Science. Are there any benefits to doing a Master's in Chester, apart from the reasons already discussed? Absolutely, Ryan. I don't know whether you're currently an undergraduate elsewhere, but our Master's students have really thrived and gone on to get some superb jobs in terms of where they've graduated to. And I'll also say, if I'm not actually talking about the postgraduate programs tomorrow, there is an open day where we'll talk about postgraduate programs. And I think, if my memory serves, that's the 11th or the 12th of June. Hopefully my LIS support or MIA support can confirm which date that is for the postgraduate open day, where you'll find out a lot more about that. But if I relate that to the undergraduate program that I've been talking about here, what we find, we get about 50% pull through. So of our master's students studying sports performance, about 50% are our own undergraduate students, and 50% therefore come from the various different other universities in this country and beyond. And to a man and a woman, every single one of those people who've come and joined us from other universities have, whether they like their other university or not, have said the one thing that stands out to them is how much more savvy the University of Chester graduates are when it comes to knowing their way around the applied aspect of the course and knowing their way around a lab. And our program, I think, really helps with that. And in terms of how a sports performance master's might help you, Ryan, it will certainly open up more doors. We are in a position now where more and more people are graduating with undergraduate degrees, and that's not to undermine them at all. But increasingly, some of the more illustrious jobs, if I might call them that, are also requiring students to have a master's degree. So it's certainly something to consider, whether you've got your degree or whether you're not even started a degree yet. Okay, Claire, hoping that's the same one, but thank you for your question again. How many hours a week teaching on the course? This varies week on week, but it's roughly between 14 to 18 on the program. In any given week. That differs in terms of what modules you might choose in the second and the third year, but it also differs from week to week, because in some weeks you might have a lead lecture, and in another week you might be timetabled for a practical, which might be twice the length of the lead lecture. So some weeks you might have maybe 18 hours of timetable contact time, and other weeks you might have 14. But each module, so there's 6 modules on every single year. Each module is going to be around about 2 to 3 hours of contact time. On top of that, there's opportunities to have tutorials and regular tutorials with the tutors, which add to the potential contact time. But they're voluntary, although we do strongly encourage them of our students. Okay, we're coming up to close to our time. If you've got any last minute questions, please do fire them in. If not, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with the number of people who've been here. Like I've mentioned before, if you leave and think that you have any further question you want to ask, my email address is still just about on the page. Okay, how do we assess the modules? That's another great question. it's in a variety of different ways. I don't think I can say that we do anything especially unique here. I think most universities now have moved beyond just asking students to complete exams or essays or lab reports. We have those, of course, because they're a necessary staple, but we also do things like we assess lab practicals. In fact, that was an idea of one of our students about 6-7 years ago who talked to us about the emphasis we place on the applied knowledge of our students, and actually said to us, but you never test us on our lab skills. And we thought this is a blooming good idea. And so in the last 5 or 6 years, part of the assessment in our physiology first year and second year has been on the lab-based skills. So we do that. We do a lot of presentation work. And going back to the question that we had on COVID-19, the way in which we've responded to that, students again have stepped up to the plate absolutely fantastically in the last couple of weeks as we've set them their presentations to do, and they've presented online rather like I'm doing with you here. It's a very different experience than having a live audience in front of me, responding to me by smiling or sometimes falling asleep or by laughing in the right places when I've told a really funny joke, for example. So it's unnerving, but it's the way in which I guess some people might find themselves delivering sessions in future. So being able to present online, in person, is a key aspect of that. So we have a variety of assessment opportunities that hopefully will mean that you'll find something that you are really good at. Although I will stress, we do get a lot of students who say, oh, I'm no good at essays or I'm no good at exams. And we don't like that kind of language, I have to say, because it's about what you can be good at. And it might be that nobody's ever taught you effectively how to approach an exam or how to write an essay. I speak to you as someone who flunked my A-levels the first time I took them. And then I was lucky enough to be taught how to write an essay in my accidental gap year. And I've never looked back since, so suddenly I went from someone who thought, I can't write an essay to actually, this is how to structure an essay. And it served me extremely well through my undergraduate dissertation. So it's not a matter of shying away from things you're no good at or focusing on the things you think, oh, that might be something more to my cup of tea. It's about embracing the different varieties of assessments we have. Okay, I think we're kind of more or less at the end of our time now. Again, thank you, Lauren, for attending. For anybody else who's been attending, emphasize again, please do go and see my colleague Craig Twist, who's doing a session, and that starts in 2 and a bit minutes. Also via, I'm not sure you stay on here, you go elsewhere for that, but please do go and see Craig Twist, and I look forward to hopefully meeting some of you in September, either in person or online this year, or certainly in person in September 2021. Take care, stay safe. I will wait if there are any other questions, but it doesn't look like they're going to be. So thank you very much. Thanks, Arthur. Take care. I'll leave now and let you go, hopefully, to see my colleague Craig Twist do his stream. Thanks for listening. Take care.